My name is Ulvara Mudd Johnson, and I am 72 years old. People say that age makes you slow. They say it makes you forget. They say it makes you easy to fool. That is exactly why they treated me the way they did. And that is exactly why they never saw what was coming. The day it happened, I was standing in my own living room, holding a small paper cup of water, when my daughter-in-law laughed at me. Not with me. At me. She looked at her husband, my son, and said, "Don't worry, she won't understand any of this anyway." She didn't whisper. She didn't lower her voice. She said it like I was furniture. Like I was already gone. Before I tell you what happened next, let me ask you something. If you enjoy emotional, powerful stories about strong grandmothers who refuse to be erased, please subscribe to this channel, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss what comes next. And while you're here, tell me in the comments which country you're watching from. I want to know who is standing with me today. Now listen carefully, because what I heard next changed everything. My daughter-in-law leaned closer to her phone, still laughing, and said, "Honestly, she's just an old woman. She won't last long anyway." That cup of water trembled in my hand. Not because I was weak, because something inside me snapped awake. And in that moment, I made a quiet promise to myself. I will let them keep underestimating me. They thought I was confused. They thought I didn't hear. They thought I didn't understand. But I understood every single word. My son avoided my eyes. He always did when he felt guilty. "Ulvara, go sit down," he said gently, like he was talking to a child. I smiled. "I'm fine right here," I replied. He nodded quickly, relieved. That was his first mistake. That evening, they sat at the dining table without inviting me. Plates clinked. Food smelled rich and warm. I sat alone in the corner, pretending to watch television. But I was listening. Always listening. "She doesn't need to know," my daughter-in-law said. "She wouldn't understand anyway," my son replied. I closed my eyes slowly. They were talking about money. My money. Later that night, my son came into my room. He stood by the door. Didn't sit. Didn't smile. "Mom," he said, "we're going to have dinner with my wife's family this weekend." I nodded. "That's nice," I said. He hesitated. "They want to meet you." I looked up. That was new. "They think it'll be polite," he added. I smiled softly. "I know how to be polite," I said. He forced a laugh. "Yes, you do." But his eyes said something else. They said, "Please, don't embarrass us." That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I was afraid. Because I was curious. Why now? Why suddenly? On Saturday morning, they dressed me like a doll. New sweater. Plain shoes. Nothing that looked expensive. Nothing that looked important. "You don't need jewelry," my daughter-in-law said. "It might look strange." I nodded. "Of course," I replied. Second mistake. The drive was quiet. Too quiet. My son's hands gripped the steering wheel like he was bracing for impact. I looked out the window and smiled. When we arrived, the house was big. Very big. The kind of house people used to make you feel small. My daughter-in-law's mother opened the door and looked me up and down. Her smile froze. "Oh," she said. "You must be the mother." I nodded. "Yes," I said. Her eyes flicked to my shoes. Third mistake. They seated me at the far end of the table. Away from the conversations. Away from the decisions. They talked business. They talked property. They talked money. Like I wasn't there. Then her father leaned back and said something that made my heart beat slow and steady. "So," he said, "what exactly do you bring to the table?" Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I folded my napkin, placed it gently beside my plate, and I looked him straight in the eye. That was the moment everything changed. But they didn't realize it yet. Because what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this naive old woman had already seen their numbers, their plans, their lies. And before that dinner was over, one simple sentence from me would make the entire room go silent. But not yet. Because first, I needed them to keep believing I was harmless. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not answer the man right away. The room waited. Forks paused in the air. Glasses stopped halfway to lips. Even the clock on the wall seemed to hold its breath. They were not used to silence from people like me. They were used to nodding, smiling, agreeing. I stayed quiet long enough to make them uncomfortable. Then I spoke. "I bring peace," I said softly. A few people chuckled. The father leaned forward, amused. "Peace," he repeated. "That's nice." I smiled. "Yes," I said. "It is." My daughter-in-law let out a short laugh. "She means she stays out of the way," she said. "She's very simple." Simple. That word landed heavy. But I didn't react. I only nodded again. They thought they had won the moment. They didn't know I was studying every face. The table filled with noise again. Talk of investments. Talk of land. Talk of weddings and future plans. Plans that somehow never included me. They spoke about a property near the city. Numbers flew across the table. Big ones. Confident ones. And when my son repeated one of those numbers wrong, just slightly wrong, I noticed. No one else did. My daughter-in-law's brother corrected him. My son laughed nervously. "Oh, right," he said. "Sorry, my mom's numbers confuse me sometimes." That sentence, that was not a mistake. That was a message. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain. Focus. After dinner, they sent me to sit in the living room while they finished talking. I didn't argue. I didn't protest. I sat quietly on the edge of the sofa, hands folded. From where I sat, I could hear everything. "They'll sign soon," the father said. "We just need the mother out of the picture." My daughter-in-law laughed. "She won't be a problem," she said. "She barely knows what day it is." My son did not correct them. That hurt more than the words. I stayed still. Even my breathing was slow. I let them think I was tired, old, lost. On the drive home, no one spoke. My daughter-in-law stared at her phone. My son watched the road. I watched both of them in the reflection of the window. When we got home, my daughter-in-law sighed loudly. "Well," she said, "that went fine." My son nodded. "Yeah," he replied. Neither of them looked at me. I went to my room and closed the door. That night, I did not cry. I did not pray. I did not sleep. I thought. I thought about how long I had been quiet, how often I had stepped back, how many times I had told myself, "It's easier this way." The next morning, I woke early. I made my bed neatly. I dressed slowly. I walked into the kitchen and made tea. My daughter-in-law entered, surprised to see me already up. "You're awake early," she said. "I've always been," I replied. She frowned slightly. "Don't forget," she said. "We have paperwork today." Paperwork? That word rang in my ears. "What paperwork?" I asked. She waved her hand. "Oh, just some things your son is helping you with." Helping. That word again. Later that morning, my son sat me down at the dining table. A folder lay between us. Thick. Too thick. "Mom," he said gently, We just want to make things easier for you. I nodded. I like easy, I said. He smiled, relieved. He opened the folder. Forms. Documents. Signatures already filled in. Spaces left blank, only where my name should go. This just lets us manage things better, he said. Your accounts, my daughter-in-law added. Your bills, your money. I looked at the papers carefully. Slower than usual. On purpose. I don't see my name here, I said. My son leaned closer. Oh, that's just a formality, he replied. I nodded again. Fourth mistake. I asked questions. Simple ones. They answered quickly. Too quickly. Like they had practiced. Why is your name here? I asked my daughter-in-law. Oh, she said. It's nothing, just for access. Access. Why is this dated last week? I asked. My son hesitated. That's just when we started preparing. Preparing. I closed the folder gently. I'd like to read this later, I said. Their smiles faded. There's no need, my daughter-in-law said sharply. We've already explained it. I understand, I replied. But I still want to read. The room grew tense. My son cleared his throat. Mom, he said. You trust us, don't you? That question. That one was dangerous. I looked at him carefully. Yes, I said. They relaxed. That was my answer. Not my decision. That afternoon, they left the house together. I stayed behind. Alone. Quiet. That was when I opened my old metal box. The one under my bed. The one no one ever asked about. Inside were documents. Real ones. Deeds. Bank statements. Letters. I spread them across the bed. One by one. Slowly. Carefully. I had never been naive. I had been patient. That evening, my daughter-in-law returned in a bad mood. They asked questions, she snapped. Who? I asked. Her family, she said. They want answers. She looked at me sharply. You didn't say anything strange, did you? I smiled softly. No, I replied. That night, I heard them whispering again. Angry whispers. Worried whispers. She's not as clueless as we thought, my son said. My daughter-in-law hissed back. She's still old, she replied. What can she do? I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I knew the answer. They didn't. Because tomorrow, I would make one small move. A quiet one. One they would not notice at first. And that move would change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning, I woke up before anyone else. The house was quiet in that heavy way, like it was holding secrets in its walls. I could hear the refrigerator humming softly. Somewhere outside, a bird sang once, then stopped. I sat on the edge of my bed and rested my hands on my knees. I felt calm. Not peaceful. Calm like water before a storm. I dressed slowly, choosing the same simple clothes I always wore. Nothing special. Nothing that would make anyone look twice. I tied my shoes carefully and stood up straight. Then I reached under my bed again. That old metal box was colder than I remembered. Inside, everything was still there. Papers neatly folded. Envelopes yellowed with time. A small notebook with my handwriting from years ago. I touched it gently. I knew I'd need you one day, I whispered. I did not take everything. Just a few things. Only what mattered. Then I slid the box back under the bed and made my bed like always. No sign. No trace. When I walked into the kitchen, my daughter-in-law was already there, scrolling through her phone. She didn't look up. Coffee's almost gone, she said. You should hurry. I smiled. I don't drink it anymore, I replied. She glanced up, surprised. Since when? But she didn't ask. My son came in next. He looked tired. Dark circles under his eyes. You sleep okay, Mom? He asked. Yes, I said. Very well. That was not a lie. They talked around me, not to me. About schedules. About meetings. About people I didn't know. I listened. When they finally left the house, I waited. 10 minutes. 20. 30. Then I picked up my purse and stepped outside. The sun was bright, too bright for what I was about to do. I walked 2 blocks to the bus stop. People stared. Not rudely. Just surprised. They were used to seeing me driven. Not walking alone. The bus ride was quiet. I watched the city pass by like it didn't know me anymore. After 3 stops, I got off. The building stood on the corner. Plain. Brick. Glass doors. A sign above it that read, Community Financial Services. I had passed it many times. Never gone inside. Until now. The woman at the desk smiled politely. Good morning, she said. Good morning, I replied. I'd like to speak to someone about my accounts. She blinked. Of course, she said. She led me to a small office. A man sat behind a desk, glasses low on his nose. Mrs. Johnson, he asked. Yes, I replied. How can I help you? I placed my papers on his desk. Slowly. One by one. His expression changed as he read. These are old, he said carefully. Yes, I replied. And still valid. He leaned back. Why are you bringing this now? He asked. I met his eyes. Because people have been speaking for me, I said. And they shouldn't. He nodded slowly. I see. We talked for a long time. About access. About signatures. About authority. He asked if anyone else was involved. Yes, I said. My son. His face tightened. That complicates things, he said. No, I replied. It clarifies them. When I left that office, my hands were steady. My heart was steady. Everything felt sharp. On the way back, my phone buzzed. A message from my daughter-in-law. Where are you? I smiled and typed back. Out. Nothing else. That afternoon, they returned home earlier than expected. My daughter-in-law dropped her bag loudly. You weren't here, she said. I went for a walk, I replied. Her eyes narrowed. My son stood by the doorway. Mom, he said. You should tell us before you leave. I nodded. You're right, I said. I should. He relaxed. Mistake. That evening, they brought the folder back out. Again. More insistent this time. We really need this signed, my daughter-in-law said. I'll look at it again, I replied. Her jaw tightened. My son leaned forward. It's just paperwork, he said. Yes, I replied. Paper is important. I asked one question. Just one. If I sign this, I said, will I still control my money? They froze. Just for a second. Of course, my son said quickly. My daughter-in-law nodded too fast. Yes, she added. I smiled. I'll think about it, I said. That night, the whispering turned into arguing. Not loud, but sharp. She's delaying, my daughter-in-law said. We'll push harder, my son replied. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling again. This time I smiled. The next morning, something changed. The house felt different. Heavy, like a lie stretched too tight. My daughter-in-law watched me closely. Too closely. You seem alert, she said. I feel good, I replied. Later that day, the phone rang. I answered. "Mrs. Johnson," a man said. "Yes. This is regarding an inquiry on your accounts." I held my breath. "Yes," I said. "Someone contacted us claiming concern about your mental capacity." Silence. "I see," I said calmly. "We wanted to verify," he continued. "Are you experiencing confusion?" I laughed softly. "No," I replied. That evening, I confronted my son. Not angrily. Quietly. "Did you call them?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he sighed. "I was worried," he said. "About what?" I asked. He looked away. "That you'd make mistakes." I nodded slowly. "Thank you for your concern," I said. He looked relieved. But I saw the fear behind his eyes. Because now he knew. Something had shifted. And he didn't know how much. That night, I checked my phone. A message. From an unknown number. They don't know who they're dealing with. My heart skipped. I stared at the screen. Then another message came through. "Be careful, they're planning something." I sat on the edge of the bed, phone shaking in my hand. Who knew? What did they know? And how long had this been going on? I looked at the door. At the quiet house. At the walls listening. Tomorrow, I would find out. Because whatever they were planning, it was already in motion. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not sleep much that night. The message kept replaying in my head. Be careful, they're planning something. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe. Pipes clicked, floorboards shifted. Somewhere down the hall, my daughter-in-law coughed in her sleep. I wondered who sent that message. And why. Morning came too fast. The smell of fried eggs filled the kitchen. My daughter-in-law hummed softly, like nothing was wrong. My son sat at the table reading something on his phone. They looked calm. Too calm. That made my stomach tighten. "Mom," my son said without looking up. "We're having guests today." "Oh," I replied. "Yes," my daughter-in-law added. "My family." That word again. Family. "What time?" I asked. "Soon," she said. "Just be ready." Be ready. For what? They did not explain. They never did. I went back to my room and sat on the bed. I thought about the message. I thought about the folder. I thought about how quickly smiles turn sharp when control slips. Around noon, cars began pulling into the driveway. Voices filled the house. Laughter. Perfume. Confidence. I walked into the living room slowly. My daughter-in-law's parents were there. Her brother. An aunt I'd never met. All eyes turned toward me at once. "Oh," her mother said. "You're up." I smiled politely. "Yes," I replied. "I live here." That earned a few awkward laughs. They sat. I remained standing. No one offered me a seat. That was intentional. "So," her father said loudly, "we thought it would be good to talk openly." I nodded. "About?" I asked. He glanced at my son. Then at his daughter. Then back at me. "About your future," he said. My heart slowed. "My future," I repeated. "Yes," he said. "Your care, your finances, your living situation." My daughter-in-law crossed her legs. "We just want what's best for everyone," she said. "Everyone. Except me." I looked around the room. "Is this a meeting?" I asked calmly. My son cleared his throat. "It's just a conversation," he said. Her mother leaned forward. "We know this is difficult for you," she said slowly. "But aging brings changes." I nodded. "Yes," I replied. It brings clarity. They exchanged looks. That wasn't the answer they wanted. We think it might be time, her father continued, to consider assisted arrangements. Assisted arrangements. Such gentle words. Such sharp meaning. I manage fine, I said. My daughter-in-law sighed. That's what you think, she replied. I felt the room shift. This wasn't concern. It was planning. And financially, her brother added. It makes sense to consolidate everything. Consolidate. Another soft word. My son finally looked at me. Mom, he said. They're just trying to help. I looked at him. Really looked. The boy I raised was hiding behind other people's voices. I didn't ask for help, I said. The room went quiet. Her father chuckled. That's usually how it goes, he said. No one ever thinks they need it. I felt anger then. Hot. But I kept my voice low. I hear everything, I said. I understand everything. My daughter-in-law rolled her eyes. You think you do, she said. That was when her mother stood up. We spoke to someone, she said. My heart skipped. Who? I asked. A professional, she replied. My son stiffened. What professional? I asked again. A doctor, she said. Someone who evaluates capacity. The room felt smaller. You could feel the lie stretching thin. You spoke to a doctor about me, I said slowly. We spoke for you, my daughter-in-law replied. I turned to my son. Did you know about this? I asked. He hesitated, then nodded. Something broke inside me then. Not loudly. Quietly. You planned this, I said. Silence. Her brother shifted uncomfortably. This is getting awkward, he muttered. I straightened my shoulders. No, I said. This is getting honest. I reached into my purse. They all stiffened. I pulled out papers. Just a few. I went somewhere yesterday, I said. My daughter-in-law's eyes narrowed. Where? She asked. To someone who listens, I replied. Her father frowned. What are those? He asked. Information, I said. I placed the papers on the table. Not all of them. Just enough. My daughter-in-law's face changed. What is this? She snapped. Proof, I replied. My son stood up. Mom, he said sharply. You're misunderstanding. No, I interrupted gently. I finally understand. Her mother picked up one paper and read it. Her expression tightened. This doesn't mean anything, she said quickly. I smiled. It means more than you think. The room erupted. Voices overlapping. Denials. Accusations. You went behind our backs, my daughter-in-law yelled. I walked in front of my own, I replied. Her father slammed his hand on the table. You're making this difficult, he snapped. I looked him in the eye. You made it dangerous, I replied. That was when the message made sense. Someone in this room had warned me. Someone uncomfortable. Someone afraid. I looked at the faces again. And I saw it. Fear. Not mine. Theirs. My daughter-in-law grabbed her coat. This is pointless, she hissed. She's confused. I laughed softly. Confused. The word they loved. You can keep calling me that, I said. But words don't erase records. My son looked at me then. Really looked. For the first time in a long while. What are you doing? He asked quietly. I met his eyes. Protecting myself, I replied. They left soon after. Not politely. Not quietly. Doors slammed. Cars roared away. The house fell silent. Just me and my son. He stood in the doorway. Hands shaking. You embarrassed us, he said. I nodded. I defended myself, I replied. You ruined everything, he whispered. I shook my head. You exposed it. He walked away. Didn't look back. That night, my phone buzzed again. Same unknown number. They didn't think you, speak. Another message followed. Now they're scared. I sat on my bed, phone glowing in the dark. I finally replied. Who are you? The answer came almost immediately. Someone who knows what they're planning next. My heart pounded. Because whatever they were planning, it was bigger than before. And now, I was standing in their way. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stared at my phone for a long time after that last message. Someone who knows what they're planning next. Those words sat heavy in my chest. I did not reply right away. I had learned that silence can be powerful, sometimes more powerful than words. The house felt different now. Not loud. Not quiet. Watchful. Like it knew something was wrong. My son avoided me the next morning. He left early. Didn't eat. Didn't speak. My daughter-in-law didn't come home at all that night. That worried me more than her anger. Around mid-morning, my phone buzzed again. Same number. Meet me today, noon, library cafe. My hands trembled. Not with fear. With knowing. I typed back slowly. Who are you? The reply came almost instantly. You'll recognize me. I dressed carefully. Not fancy. Not small. Just myself. I told no one where I was going. That was important. The library cafe smelled like old books and coffee. Soft voices. Gentle music. I sat at a small table near the window. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then a woman walked in. She paused when she saw me. Our eyes met. And I knew. It was my daughter-in-law's aunt. The quiet one. The one who barely spoke at family gatherings. The one who always looked uncomfortable. She sat down slowly. My name is Ruth, she said. I know, I replied. She took a deep breath. I sent the messages, she said. I nodded. I suspected, I replied. Her hands shook as she wrapped them around her cup. I couldn't stay quiet anymore, she said. My heart softened. Why? I asked. Because I've seen this before, she replied. With my own mother. She told me everything. Slowly. Carefully. Like she had been holding it in for years. About how control starts small. About how families hide it behind concern. About how paperwork becomes a weapon. They think you're weak, she said. They always do. She leaned closer. They're planning to move you, she whispered. My breath caught. Where? I asked. Not here, she replied. They want to say it's temporary. Temporary. Another soft word. Soon, she added. As soon as they get the papers signed. I closed my eyes. So that was it. That was the plan. They've already spoken to someone, Ruth continued. About a facility. My stomach turned. They think once you're out of the house, she said. Everything will be easier. I looked at her. Why tell me now? I asked. She swallowed. Because once they do it, she said. It's hard to undo. I reached across the table and touched her hand. Thank you, I said. She nodded, tears in her eyes. When I got home, the house was empty. Too empty. I walked through each room slowly. Touching walls. Memories. My life. That night, my son returned late. He looked tired. Defeated. Mom, he said. We need to talk. I nodded. Yes, I replied. He sat down heavily. "They're worried about you," he said. "I'm worried about you," I replied. He rubbed his face. "This has gone too far," he muttered. "Yes," I said. "It has. They think it's best if you stay somewhere else for a while," he said. There it was. "For your safety," he added quickly. I looked at him calmly. "My safety from what?" I asked. He hesitated. "From making mistakes." I stood up slowly. "My life is not a mistake," I said. He stood too. "You're not listening," he snapped. I met his eyes. "I've been listening too long," I replied. That was when I told him. "I know about the facility," I said quietly. His face drained of color. "Who told you?" he asked. "That doesn't matter," I replied. "You went behind my back," he said angrily. I nodded. "You went behind my life," I replied. He slammed his fist on the table. "This is for your own good." I raised my voice for the first time. "No," I said firmly. "This is for your control." He froze. I could see it. The truth had landed. He stepped back. "You don't understand what you're risking," he said. I shook my head. "You don't understand what you already lost," I replied. That night, I locked my door. I hadn't done that before. Not once. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. A message from Ruth. "They're panicking." Another came. "They didn't think you'd find out this fast." I typed back. "What happens now?" The dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then appeared again. Now she wrote. "They'll try to force it." My heart pounded. Because forced moves are dangerous. Vast. Messy. I sat up. I knew I had to act. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Carefully. The next morning, a letter arrived. Official. Thick envelope. My name typed neatly on the front. I didn't open it. Not yet. I didn't need to. I already knew what it was. And I knew one thing for sure. If I waited any longer, I would lose the chance to stop them. I held the envelope in my hands and made a decision that would change everything. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I held the envelope for a long time before opening it. I already knew what was inside. But knowing and seeing are two different things. One lives in your head. The other lands in your hands and refuses to let go. I sat at the small desk by my window and placed the envelope flat in front of me. The paper was thick, official, the kind that tries to sound calm while doing harm. I slid my finger under the edge and tore it open slowly. Inside were documents. Forms. Words like temporary placement, evaluation, recommended supervision. No question marks. No room for my voice. They had already decided. They just needed my body to follow. I read every line. Slowly. Carefully. Not once did they ask what I wanted. Not once did they ask how I felt. They talked about me like I was luggage. Something to move. Something to store. I folded the papers and placed them back into the envelope. Then I stood up. That was the moment I knew I would not wait anymore. I packed a small bag. Nothing dramatic. Just clothes. Documents. My old metal box. The one with my life inside it. I locked my door and stepped into the hallway. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that hides plans. I left a note on the kitchen table. 3 words. I'm not confused. Nothing else. Outside, the air felt sharper. Colder. Like the world had finally decided to pay attention. I didn't call a taxi. I didn't want a record. I walked. 3 blocks. Then I called Ruth. They're moving faster, I said. I know, she replied. Where are you? She asked. On my way, I said. She lived in a small apartment above a bookstore. Quiet. Warm. Safe. When she opened the door and saw my bag, her eyes widened. You didn't wait, she said. No, I replied. They didn't give me time. She made tea. We sat at her small table. The smell of books filled the room. It reminded me of my childhood. Libraries. Silence. Truth waiting on shelves. They'll panic, she said. They already are, I replied. My phone buzzed. A call from my son. I did not answer. Another call. Then a message. Where are you? I set the phone face down. Ruth leaned forward. They don't have your signature yet, she said. That's why they're rushing. I nodded. That's why I moved first, I replied. That afternoon, Ruth made several calls. Not loud ones. Quiet ones. Careful ones. People who listen. People who write things down. By evening, my son had left 5 messages. Each one more frantic than the last. Mom, this is serious. Mom, answer me. Mom, you're making this worse. I finally sent one reply. I am safe. Nothing more. That night, I slept on Ruth's couch. It wasn't comfortable, but it was free. And freedom rests differently. In the morning, I woke up to sunlight and voices downstairs. The bookstore was opening. Life continued. That comforted me. Ruth handed me a phone. Someone wants to speak with you, she said. Who? I asked. A social worker, she replied. I took the phone. Yes, I said. She spoke kindly. Slowly. Ask me questions. Real questions. Are you being forced to move? She asked. Yes, I replied. Do you feel unsafe? She asked. Yes, I replied. Do you want to leave your home? She asked. No, I replied. There was a pause. Then she said something important. Thank you for telling me, she said. After the call ended, Ruth smiled. They weren't expecting that, she said. I nodded. They never expect honesty, I replied. That afternoon, my daughter-in-law arrived at Ruth's apartment. Uninvited. Angry. She knocked hard. Too hard. Ruth opened the door halfway. She's not here, she said. That's a lie, my daughter-in-law snapped. I stepped forward. I'm here, I said calmly. Her face twisted. You humiliated us, she said. You tried to erase me, I replied. You're acting crazy, she shouted. I looked at her quietly. Words don't move people anymore, I said. Records do. She froze. What did you do? She asked. I spoke, I replied. She laughed bitterly. No one will believe you, she said. I tilted my head. Someone already did, I replied. She stepped back. Fear flickered. Just for a second. My son arrived soon after. His face pale. His eyes red. Mom, he said. Please come home. I shook my head. Home does not threaten me, I replied. You're destroying the family, he said. I answered calmly. You tried to dismantle me. He looked around. This place isn't safe for you, he said. I smiled softly. It's safer than my own house was, I replied. That was when he said something he didn't mean to say. You don't understand how much money is involved. The room went still. Ruth's eyes widened. I looked at my son. Slowly. Carefully. There it is, I said quietly. He realized his mistake too late. That evening, Ruth received another call. They're backing off, she said. For now. I knew what that meant. Retreat. Regroup. Return stronger. I sat by the window that night, watching the streetlights come on. I thought about my life. My years. My silence. They had mistaken kindness for weakness. They had mistaken patience for ignorance. But now, the quiet old woman they underestimated had stepped out of the corner. And they didn't know how to put me back. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. They've changed the plan. Another followed. Tomorrow. My chest tightened. Tomorrow was coming fast. And whatever they had planned next would decide everything. I closed my eyes and prepared myself. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I did not sleep that night. Not because I was afraid of the dark, but because the dark was listening. Every sound outside Ruth's apartment made my body stiffen. A car door, a voice, footsteps on the sidewalk below. I sat on the couch, wrapped in a thin blanket, staring at the door like it might open on its own. They've changed the plan. Tomorrow. That message stayed in my mind like a ticking clock. Ruth woke up early. She found me already dressed, sitting upright. "You didn't rest," she said. "I rested enough," I replied. She poured coffee and sat across from me. "They're desperate now," she said quietly. I nodded. "Desperate people do dangerous things," I replied. Around mid-morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Mrs. Johnson," a man said. "This is Adult Protective Services." My heart slowed. "Yes," I replied. "We received a request for an emergency wellness check," he continued. I closed my eyes. "From who?" I asked. "Your son and daughter-in-law," he said. Ruth inhaled sharply. "They claim you left your home confused and at risk," the man continued. I opened my eyes and sat up straighter. "I did not leave confused," I said. "I left to stay safe." There was a pause. "Where are you now?" he asked. "I am with a trusted person," I replied. "May we speak in person?" he asked. "Yes," I said calmly. After the call ended, Ruth stood up. "They're escalating," she said. "Yes," I replied. "And so will I." Within an hour, there was a knock at the door. Two people stood outside. Professional. Neutral. Clipboards in hand. "Mrs. Johnson?" the woman asked. "Yes," I replied. "We'd like to speak with you." "Come in," I said. They sat. They listened. They asked questions. Real questions. "Do you feel unsafe at your home?" the woman asked. "Yes," I replied. "Have you been pressured to sign documents?" the man asked. "Yes," I replied. "Do you believe your family is acting in your best interest?" the woman asked. I paused, then answered honestly. "No," I replied. They exchanged glances. Quiet ones. "May we see the documents?" the man asked. I handed them the envelope. All of it. They read slowly. Their faces changed. Not shocked. Concerned. "This is serious," the woman said softly. "Yes," I replied. That's why I spoke. As they stood to leave, the man turned back. "We will be following up," he said. "With who?" I asked. "With everyone," he replied. Ruth closed the door and leaned against it. "They thought they were in control," she whispered. "They still think that," I replied. That afternoon, my son showed up downstairs. I could see him from the window. Packing. Talking on his phone. Angry. Ruth locked the door. "We don't open it," she said. "I know," I replied. He shouted from outside. "Mom, you're making this worse." I stepped back from the window. "You already did," I said quietly. Minutes later, my daughter-in-law arrived. Her face tight, her mouth drawn thin. She didn't shout. That scared me more. She knocked calmly. Too calmly. "Mrs. Johnson," she called through the door. "We just want to talk." I didn't move. "You're embarrassing the family," she continued. Ruth looked at me. I nodded. She opened the door slightly. "She doesn't want to speak," Ruth said. My daughter-in-law smiled coldly. "That won't matter soon," she replied. Those words, they chilled me. She leaned closer. "You think you've won," she said. "You haven't." Ruth closed the door. Locked it. My heart pounded. "She's threatening you," Ruth said. "I know," I replied. That evening, my phone rang again. Same unknown number. They filed paperwork. The message read, "Emergency placement." My chest tightened. They weren't waiting anymore. They were trying to force it. Ruth grabbed her coat. "We need to move," she said. "Where?" I asked. "Somewhere they won't expect," she replied. We packed quickly. Only essentials. Documents. Phones. As we left through the back stairs, I saw something that made my stomach drop. A car parked across the street. Engine running. Windows tinted. "Do you see that?" I whispered. Ruth nodded. "Yes," she said. We walked faster. Did not run. Running draws attention. Halfway down the block, my phone buzzed again. They're coming with authority this time. I stopped. My heart slammed. "Ruth," I said. "If they catch me now." "They won't," she said firmly. We turned a corner. Then another. Then slipped into a small clinic entrance Ruth had already called. A receptionist looked up. "Oh," she said. "You must be Elvira." I nodded. "Yes." They ushered me inside. Closed the door. Locked it. Ruth exhaled sharply. "They won't like this," she said. "No," I replied. "But they won't control it." Inside that room, I sat down slowly. My hands were steady. My voice was steady. But my heart knew something big was coming. Because once authority gets involved, someone always loses control. And I could feel it. The moment was close. The moment when the truth would either protect me or put me in danger. Outside, sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Not for me. Not yet. But I knew. Tomorrow would not be quiet. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The clinic room smelled clean and sharp, like something new trying to cover something old. I sat in a padded chair near the wall, my purse on my lap, my fingers resting on the metal clasp. The door was closed, locked. Ruth stood near the window, arms folded, eyes scanning the street below. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. The world outside was already moving. A woman in a blue sweater entered the room quietly. She had kind eyes, tired eyes, the kind you get when you've seen too many families turn on each other. "Mrs. Johnson?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "I'm Dr. Haynes," she said. "I was asked to evaluate you." I nodded. "I expected that," I said. She pulled up a chair and sat across from me. "I want to be clear," she said gently. "This is not a test, it's a conversation." I smiled faintly. "Then I'm good at those," I replied. She asked me my name, my age, where I was, what day it was. Simple questions. I answered each one clearly, without rushing, without shaking. She asked about my home, about my son, about why I left. "I left because I felt unsafe," I said. "Unsafe how?" she asked. "Pressured," I replied. "Watched." pushed to sign things I didn't agree with. She nodded and wrote notes. Did anyone threaten you? She asked. I paused. Yes, I said. Quietly. She looked up. What does that mean? She asked. It means they smiled while they planned, I replied. She leaned back and studied me. Not skeptically. Carefully. Mrs. Johnson, she said, do you believe your family is acting in your best interest? I answered without hesitation. No, I said. She nodded again. I thought so, she replied. When she stood to leave, she placed a hand on the table. You're very clear, she said. And very aware. Thank you, I replied. After she left, Ruth exhaled slowly. They expected you to crumble, she said. I didn't, I replied. An hour passed. Then another. The clinic staff checked on me regularly. Offered water. Offered a blanket. They treated me like a person. Not a problem. Late afternoon, the door opened again. This time, 2 people entered. A man in a suit. A woman with a badge clipped to her jacket. Mrs. Johnson, the woman said. I'm from Adult Protective Services. I nodded. Yes, I replied. We need to discuss the request made by your family, she continued. I'm ready, I said. They sat. They asked. I answered. Again. Truth does not change. Your son claims you wandered away confused, the man said. I walked away informed, I replied. Your daughter-in-law claims you refused care, the woman said. I refused control, I replied. They exchanged looks. The quiet kind. The kind that says this isn't adding up. May we see your documents? The man asked. I handed them over. Everything. They read slowly. Faces tightening. Pens pausing. The woman looked up. Mrs. Johnson, she said. Did your family explain these forms to you? No, I replied. Did you agree to them? She asked. No, I replied. She closed the folder. That's a problem, she said. Yes, I replied. For them. The man cleared his throat. We'll need to speak with your son and his wife, he said. I nodded. I assumed you would, I replied. When they left, Ruth hugged me. You did it, she whispered. I shook my head. No, I said. I spoke. Night fell outside the clinic. The streetlights flickered on. Cars passed. Life continued. My phone buzzed. My son. I answered. Mom, he said, voice shaking. Where are you? I'm safe, I replied. You need to come home, he said. No, I replied. They're asking questions, he whispered. Yes, I said. You don't understand what you're doing, he said. I understand exactly, I replied. They might take this further, he warned. I smiled sadly. They already have, I replied. He was quiet. Then he spoke again. They'll blame me, he said. I closed my eyes. You chose this, I replied. He hung up. Later that night, Ruth and I were told I could stay. Temporarily. Protected. Observed. As I lay in the small bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt something strange. Relief. Not peace. Relief. Because the truth was no longer trapped in my chest. It was written down. Spoken. Shared. Just before sleep took me, my phone buzzed again. A message. Unknown number. They're turning on each other. Another message followed. Someone is lying to save themselves. My heart raced. Because when people start turning, someone always gets exposed. I closed my eyes. Tomorrow would bring answers. But it would also bring consequences. And I knew something else now. This wasn't just about me anymore. It was about who would be believed. And tomorrow, someone would lose everything they thought they controlled. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next morning, I woke before the lights came on in the hallway. The clinic was quiet in that early way, like it was holding its breath. My room smelled faintly of clean sheets and medicine. I sat up slowly and rested my feet on the floor, feeling the cold tiles beneath them. I was not confused. I was not lost. I was awake. Ruth arrived just after sunrise. She carried 2 cups of coffee and a small paper bag with bread inside. "You slept?" she asked. "A little," I replied. She smiled. "That's more than they did," she said. We sat together by the window and watched the street below. People walked past, unaware of how quickly lives can tilt. At 9 o'clock, the clinic door opened again. This time, it wasn't a doctor. It was my daughter-in-law's mother. And behind her, her brother. My heart did not race. It slowed. Because this was not part of their plan. They stood stiffly in the doorway until a nurse stopped them. "You can't be here," the nurse said. "We need to speak with her," my daughter-in-law's mother replied sharply. The nurse glanced at me. I nodded once. "Let them in," I said. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, but she stepped aside. They walked in like they owned the room. Like this was still their house. "We need to clear some things up," her mother said, folding her arms. I stayed seated. "Yes," I replied calmly. "You do." Her brother looked uncomfortable. He shifted his weight. "I didn't know it was this bad," he muttered. Her mother shot him a look. "Stay quiet," she snapped. I watched them closely. The cracks were already there. "You've embarrassed us," her mother said to me. I nodded. "Truth does that," I replied. "You went behind our backs," she continued. I smiled softly. "You went behind my life," I replied. Her brother finally spoke. "You told us she agreed," he said to his mother. She stiffened. "That's not what I said," she replied quickly. I leaned forward slightly. "I never agreed," I said. Silence filled the room. Her brother frowned. "Then why did you say?" he started. She cut him off. "This isn't the time." "It is," I said gently. The door opened again. A woman from Adult Protective Services stepped inside. Clipboard in hand. Neutral face. "I'm glad you're here," she said. So was I. She looked at everyone. "We are here to clarify several conflicting statements," she said. Her mother straightened. "We were only trying to help," she said. The woman nodded. "Then you won't mind answering questions," she replied. She asked about the paperwork, about the facility, about who arranged what. Her brother hesitated, then spoke. "I didn't know there was a facility," he said. Her mother's eyes widened. "What?" she snapped. "You told me it was just financial planning," he said. The room shifted. The ground beneath them cracked. The woman from APS wrote something down, then looked up. "So you were not informed?" she asked him. "No," he replied. Her mother's face paled. She laughed nervously. "You're misunderstanding," she said. The APS woman looked at her calmly. "Ma'am," she said, "misunderstandings don't come with signed forms." Her brother turned toward her. "You said this was temporary," he said. She avoided his eyes. I watched it all unfold. Quietly. I did not interrupt. Because when people lie long enough, they forget who heard what. The APS woman asked one final question. "Who initiated the request?" she asked. There was a pause. A long one. Her mother opened her mouth, closed it. Then her brother spoke. "It was my sister," he said quietly. Everyone turned. "You told us to support it," he continued. You said she was unstable. Her mother's hands trembled. You're turning on me, she hissed. I'm telling the truth, he replied. The APS woman nodded slowly. Thank you, she said. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Johnson, she said. We'll be updating our report. Her mother's voice rose. You can't do this, she shouted. The nurse stepped forward. Yes, we can, she said. They were escorted out. Not gently. Not harshly. Firmly. When the door closed, Ruth let out a breath she'd been holding. It's happening, she whispered. Yes, I replied. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. My daughter-in-law. I answered. You did this, she said. Her voice cracked. You exposed yourself, I replied. My family is turning against me, she said. I stayed quiet. They think I planned everything, she continued. I know, I replied. You ruined my marriage, she hissed. I closed my eyes. You tried to ruin my life, I replied. She hung up. That evening, the APS woman returned. We've placed a temporary block, she said. On what? I asked. On any decisions being made without your consent, she replied. I felt something loosen inside me. Just a little. But she wasn't done. There's more, she said. My stomach tightened. Your son has been contacted, she continued. And he's saying things that don't match his wife's story. I nodded. They're unraveling, I said. She looked at me carefully. You're very composed, she said. I had time to prepare, I replied. Night came quietly. Too quietly. I lay in bed, listening to the sounds of the clinic. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang. Footsteps passed. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He's blaming her now. Another message followed. But she's blaming you. I stared at the screen. Because blame always looks for a place to land. And I knew what came next. Tomorrow, they would stop fighting each other. And start fighting me. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I woke up knowing something had changed. Not outside. Inside. The air in the clinic felt lighter, like a storm had passed and left everything wet and quiet behind it. I sat on the edge of the bed and placed my feet on the floor. My hands were steady. My breathing was calm. For the first time in a long time, I did not feel like I was waiting for something bad to happen. I had already survived it. Ruth arrived later than usual that morning. Her face told me everything before she even spoke. They're asking for you, she said softly. Who? I asked. Everyone, she replied. We walked down the hallway together. I did not rush. I did not hesitate. I walked like someone who had nothing left to hide. The meeting room was full. My son sat on one side of the table. My daughter-in-law sat across from him. They were not sitting together. That told me more than any words ever could. A representative from Adult Protective Services sat near the window. A social worker stood near the door. Ruth took a seat beside me. No one spoke when I entered. My daughter-in-law looked at the table. My son looked at me. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not weaker. Just exposed. We're here to close this matter, the APS representative said calmly. She looked around the room. And to clarify responsibility. My daughter-in-law spoke first. This has gone too far, she said quickly. She exaggerated everything. I did not respond. My son rubbed his face. You didn't tell me everything, he said to his wife. She snapped her head up. You said you handled the money, she shot back. The room filled with tension. But I stayed quiet. Because this part was not about me speaking. It was about them, realizing they no longer controlled the story. The APS representative raised her hand. "We've reviewed the documents," she said. "We've reviewed the statements. We've reviewed the messages." She paused. "And the patterns." She turned to my son. "You pressured your mother financially," she said. He opened his mouth, then closed it. She turned to my daughter-in-law. "You coordinated the paperwork," she said. Her face drained of color. "And," the woman continued, "you both benefited." Silence. "This ends today," the APS representative said. She slid a document across the table toward me. "Full autonomy," she said. "No shared access. No approvals without consent." I read it carefully. Then I signed. My daughter-in-law stood up. "You can't just take everything back," she shouted. I looked at her. Calmly. "I never gave it away," I said. My son finally spoke. "Mom," he said quietly. I thought I was helping. I met his eyes. "No," I replied. "You were taking." His shoulders dropped. The APS representative stood. "There will be no further involvement unless new complaints arise," she said. She looked at my son and his wife. "Do not contact Mrs. Johnson regarding finances or living arrangements." Then she looked at me. "You're free to leave when you're ready." They left first. Not together. Not speaking. The door closed behind them. I sat still, letting the quiet settle. Ruth squeezed my hand. "You did it," she whispered. "No," I replied. I stopped letting it happen. Later that afternoon, I returned to my home. My real home. Not the one they tried to push me into. The house felt different. Not because the walls had changed, but because I had. I walked through each room slowly, touching the door frames, the windows, the furniture they once told me was too much for me. I made tea, sat at the table, and for the first time in years, I ate without rushing, without fear of being watched. That evening, my phone rang. My son. I answered. "I don't know how to fix this," he said. I thought for a moment. "You don't," I replied. Silence. "You live with what you did," I continued. "And I live free." He did not argue. He did not beg. He simply said, "I'm sorry." "I know," I replied. And I meant it. Weeks passed. The family did not come around. Not at first. But word traveled. Quietly. Through church groups. Through neighbors. Through people who had watched and wondered. They stopped calling me confused. They stopped saying I was losing it. They started calling me strong. One afternoon, I received a letter from my daughter-in-law's family. Short, formal, apologetic. I folded it neatly, placed it in a drawer, and moved on. I joined a walking group, started volunteering again, laughed more, slept better. And one morning, as I stood on my porch watching the sun rise, Ruth said something that stayed with me. "They treated you like a naive old woman," she said. I smiled. "Until they met the truth," I replied. I did not need revenge. I did not need shouting. I did not need punishment. All I needed was my voice, and the courage to use it. Because when they tried to take everything from me, they taught me something instead. Never give your power away, especially to those who benefit from your silence. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.